The state is taking more responsibility when it comes to children in the foster care system.
It's because of House Bill 612, which puts all 100 counties under the same rule set by the State Department of Health and Human Services. WCT's Anaya Cromartie learned more about how it's going to work. Anaya, how is this new setup going to help the children in the system?
Daniela, under the new rules, the State Department of Health and Human Services will tighten the deadline for county officials to investigate reports of abuse. In the new bill, when county directors receive reports of abuse or neglect, they're required to make a prompt assessment to determine if protective services are needed. That could include visiting the home in person or getting law enforcement involved to investigate the report. In a case of reported abuse, the county director must start a review within 1 day. When a report alleges neglect, the review must be done in 72 hours. In a report of abandonment, the review must be done immediately, and authorities must put the child in temporary custody. State leaders believe a more uniformed system will result in faster responses across North Carolina.
North Carolina, as you're aware, is state supervised and county administered. So that means we have 100 county departments of social services that provide services to our citizens. And so there has to be some way of just ensuring that all the services that are out there are consistent and in alignment with law and policy.
House Bill 612 will also ensure the state has more authority to review records, strengthen visitation requirements, and decrease the time that children spend in the foster care system. To read more details on this bill and how it is now law, I've included a link over on our website. Anaya Cromartie, WECT News.